Howdy, folks! Over the years, a lot of people have commented both online and offline about my work on mineralogy, that it must be really expensive or cost a lot of money to get all the equipment, or I must be rich to be able to do this. And none of those are the case at all. And actually I kind of went through just eyeballing stuff in my lab at what I do use. And I was amazed at how little I actually use for mineralogy, and kind of how inexpensive everything is. So I thought I would do a video on that. I do have a lot of stuff in the lab. When I originally put the lab together, it wasn't strictly for mineralogy. It was kind of a general purpose lab. So I have a lot of stuff that's more towards organic chemistry that you don't need, things towards biology and stuff like that. And I do quite a bit of stuff with that too, but I don't post any of that content because there's other stuff online that's close enough or similar to that don't make it, at least in my book, worth my while. This stuff is a little bit unique. So anyways, the reason why it really isn't that expensive, or at least one of the reasons, is that I'm cheap. And I end up getting a lot of the stuff, I either make it myself, or I modify something that's similar to something that I can use, or I buy it used, either at a garage sale or a thrift store, or we don't do flea markets too often, but I imagine you can get quite a bit of stuff there too. And the reason I do it is, A, I don't like to spend a lot of money to begin with. Like I said, I'm cheap, and two, I enjoy it, so I like to be able to get a new purpose for something, or create something. I wasn't quite sure how to organize the video, or actually I'm going to do a series of videos, but actually it's going to end up kind of a weird way. I'm going to actually do it by material. I made a bunch of kind of wood stuff, and then I've gotten a lot of certain sort of glassware, and some plastic items, and some metal items, and so I'm going to kind of organize it like that and do a few shorter separate videos kind of covering those topics. And I'll also have some videos about some of the fixtures that I've used, and some of the chemicals too, and also some of the things that I've actually had to buy that there weren't really much of an alternative. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started. And this is going to be the wood items. And right back here, I use these quite a bit. These are just wood test tube racks that I made myself. It's actually plywood, and a lot of designs they have. Let me get these out of the way. I have a couple different sizes, but a couple of the designs, they actually have sides that come up, and mine's a little bit different. They have the top and the bottom coming up to the sides, so they're a little easier to store. As you can see, I actually have one in the hood, but the extra ones I can just kind of stack, and they're really out of the way. And I got some with larger holes for the larger test tubes, and I just drilled little, partially drilled little spots in the bottom to keep them from floating away, like that. And I also made some smaller ones for some of the smaller tubes. And when you go to make it, I was looking online at what kind of sizes that some of the commercial racks have, and just look at what you want to use it for and drill some holes. It's not really a rocket science here. In fact, you could probably even put different size holes in the same rack, but I made separate racks, and I have the small ones, a very large one, and I have the other size with the intermediate size holes. If they do get too big, they kind of flop around a little bit, but they still work. So anyways, that was scrap plywood with some extra finish that I had that I just threw on there. Seems to work fine. I had some reservations about having hot test tubes in there, but I don't have any trouble with anything burning or melting or anything like that. Now the next item I use all the time, and you never see it on any videos, I don't think, but I use the daylights out of it, and it's this drying rack. And so when I go to wash up all my glassware, I let it drain on there and dry before I put it away. And I usually throw my gloves. I'm too cheap to Get a new pair every time, so I'll wash them off and put them up there. But once again, it's just some plywood with the same finish I threw on there, and some dowel rod. And let's see here. I have a couple larger containers and a couple tubes in here right now. I'll get rid of those, but it basically has feet that come forward, because when you put the weight of items on the pegs, it'll want to lean, so this keeps them from leaning forward. And I actually put a little bit on the back because I didn't want to let it tilt forward. And I have it sitting on a rag and some paper towels here to absorb moisture, and I'll replace those on occasion. But if you want to get some idea, oh, I got a couple more tubes here. If you want to get some idea of the size, it's about 13 inches by about 15. And this seems to work really well. Sometimes I fill it up and then some, but that's very rare. The feet actually come out about 8 inches on the forward side and about an inch in the back. Actually, if I had to do it again, I'd probably just extend these legs back, just have them run on the outside. And let's see, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that I have a dozen kind of closely spaced pegs that I use for test tubes, another half a dozen here for intermediate stuff, and looks like a half a dozen large ones here. And these are, about 3/8 inch dowels, or 1/4 inch, I think, 1/4 inch dowels, and they're probably at about almost a 45-degree angle. So, like I said, it works out great for me. Didn't have to buy it. It's super handy. Some of the other wood stuff, I have these test tube holders. And they're actually, I got this idea off of an old PDF of an old chemistry book, do-it-yourself kind of chemistry set sort of thing. And it's just a clothespin on a larger wood handle. And I just looks like I screwed it on. I probably glued it too. And I actually hollowed out the jaws too, so it can handle a small tube with ease, and also actually my jumbo tubes and anything in between. So it comes in handy. Once again, I was a little concerned about burning these, and I didn't really have any problem. I was pretty careful at the beginning, and then I kind of got careless. But yeah, it's got some scorch marks, but nothing big deal. So that's pretty much free too. Some other items, actually just clothespins in general, make great clips for a lot of stuff. As far as corks, actually I use some wine corks. The ones that are natural cork, or actually a composite, I'll cut down and cut a taper into it and sand it. And actually I use those a lot for some of the larger corks that I need, not the smaller ones. I do have smaller corks that I bought, and rubber stoppers too. But anyways, you can get a lot of mileage out of those, which I have. I use a lot of these wood splint things for all sorts of different things. And actually you can get those, I think this was part of a mat, or kind of a wood mat. I have kind of an example here, but these are larger, but they're kind of strung together, and you could take them apart, and lo and behold, you end up with a whole bunch of wood pieces, which work out good. And wooden chopsticks I use for certain things too on occasion. The one item I was kind of impatient with, and actually this whole thing can be done really cheap if you're not in a rush. And fortunately, when we were in a rental house before this, and we're going to move over here at some point, so I was able to plan ahead of time, and I didn't want to set up a lab in the rental house and have to take everything down. So I actually planned, I don't know, maybe as far as a year in advance, and looking for stuff. And so that's really helps too, because you can you can't just run out and find something at a thrift store and know it's going to be there. It may not be, but if you have time on your hands, you can find an awful lot of stuff that you can use. But actually, what I wasn't patient with was I bought some spiral lab notebooks, which kind of hefty graph paper, so I kind of splurged on that, but I didn't really need to, because actually kind of at a discount store they had a whole bunch of these, and I bought a bunch of these kind of graphed, kind of like a composition notebook, for really cheap. I could have just got those. And these we actually did get at garage sales and thrift stores. These are the actual composition books, and they would make just a fine lab journal or lab notebook for you. Let's see, what else do we have here? I'm too lazy to get up and move the camera, so the cameraman is gone. But I have this wood console. Once again, I got it at a thrift store, and it has all of my office sort of supplies, pencils, pens, extra pads, kind of a place you can set a book, kind of cubbies for different things, a little drawer, a little cork board that I can put notes on. So that, and actually most of the stuff in it I got from the thrift store also, including the calculator. And let's see, not too much wood stuff. One other thing. I guess this is a combination of wood and metal. It's a ring stand, and I just used threaded rod. I think I ended up buying that, and a wood base that I painted just to keep wood spills and stuff to protect it a little bit. And since it is a threaded rod, I was able to drill a hole through the base, kind of countersink it, and countersunk some nuts, and so they're tightened down. And I ended up putting 2 on here, so if I wanted to do more organic chemistry stuff where I might want to have some flasks and a condenser or something that I can kind of have them in close proximity. But you can do anything that you want. And here's one last wood item, at least that I could think about now. And they just have wooden handles. They're my wires with loops for doing borax beads or sodium carbonate beads or flame tests. It's just a dowel with I drill a very small hole, insert the wire with some epoxy, and let that set. And it holds it really well, and it doesn't get too hot for the handle, so that does fine. And I threw the same lab brown finish on there as everything else has, just to protect it. So that works out well. Kind of related to wood items are paper, so I figure I'll do those too. These I use all the time. These are about 2.5 inches square, and it's a pad that I made out of just scrap paper. I'll cut the blank parts out, and I use them for weighing paper. So if I need to weigh out a little bit of something or another on the scale, I'll put this down, tear it out, put the material on there, and then I can dump it into a tube or whatever I want to, whatever I need it for. So I use these all the time. I have padding compound, and I just cut them on a paper cutter. Another item that is paper related, but I really don't use it for mineralogy, and that's coffee filters I use for filtration. But for the semi-micro and micro qualitative analysis, I really don't filter, so I thought I'd just show you that anyways. And once again, we don't drink coffee, so I got this at the thrift store. I don't know if it was open or what, but it was cheap. Here's some other paper filters too that I picked up somewhere. I thought they were kind of a unique size. It says single serve paper filters, and they're kind of a small pre-form, so I thought they might be useful for something at some point. And I guess I paid 50 cents, so I figured even though I don't really use this stuff very often, I guess for 50 cents it would be good to have on hand. And the last thing, paper or wood related, are books. And I was going to bring all the books that I've gotten either at thrift stores or book sales or even online used, but it would be a huge stack. But I mean, I've gotten some Kind of just basic mineralogy books. Just like I said, just finding them out out in the wild, I guess you can call it. But here's a manual of mineralogy, which is kind of you know, a very well used and old reference. Pose I found. Here's one of Dana's minerals and how to study them. Book on mineral tables and a whole bunch of, like I said, a whole bunch of stuff. I found a bunch of books on actually mineral collecting sites in the area. And also kind of more general kind of rock and mineral stuff, but I didn't bring them all over. But once again, these things are only like anything from a quarter to $1 to $2 a piece at the most, maybe. But mostly, like I said, maybe on average about 50 cents or $1. So anyways, that's not a big expense. There has been a couple of references that I've really wanted, and I've ordered online that might have cost a few bucks more. But once again, they're used and weren't really a big expenditure. That's enough for the first installation. I'll try not to make them too long. But yeah, when I started looking through stuff, I was really surprised at how inexpensive you can do most of this stuff. Anyways, we'll be getting some more videos out. Thank you for watching, and have a great day. Happy lab outfitting.